Hey, what? Yeah. Okay.
Over to Joe.
Okay. Right. So, well, I've got 3 questions, but actually we go with the first question maybe. How do you embed audio files into Google Forms? So, for example, to upload listing papers.
Okay. It's not immediately simple to do, unfortunately. You can easily upload images into a Google form, but audio is more difficult. My way of working around it is, as long as I've got the audio file and I've got the link, I basically just paste it into the question. So I make sure that the link is part of the question itself, and then they can just click on it and listen to it, and then have the questions pasted below. I don't know if you do anything different, Sam.
I was going to say you can't. The only way you can do it is finding workarounds. So yeah, pasting a link to an audio file that you've got saved in your drive, or a long way around could be to turn it into a video on a private YouTube channel and then pop it in, because you can put videos from YouTube in a form. But that would be quite long-winded, I imagine.
I mean, I don't know if I can sort of butt in, but the way I normally do it is similar to what you just said. I use onlinevoicerecorder.com, the website, record the audio, save it as an MP3, upload it into Google Drive, make it a shareable link by right-clicking Get Link. Otherwise, the students won't be able to hear it, and then choose either anyone with the link or anyone in your organization, and then post the link into a Google form.
Is it possible on that for anyone to show on their screen, or do you want me to share my screen and you talk me through it? Do you think that would help?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
I just wondered it might.
You mentioning that, Joe, I've just thought of another way of doing the same thing, actually. So
I think
always good.
If we've got the question, a visual thing.
Yeah,
sure.
And I'm lost.
Shall I share my screen then?
Yeah, that would be lovely if you could.
Let's put.
Because this is a big thing, isn't it? For language teachers, audio is a really important bit.
That one there. There we go. Just check that sharing the right screen.
And it may be that I start typing in chat what you say, so we've got that as a little record as well.
Yeah, sure. So let me just go on to a brand new form. So if I just type forms.new into my web browser. So forms.new will give you a brand new Google form. It's the easiest way to get one.
Ooh.
Okay. And then what I would do, as Joe said, I've previously used things like online voice recorder, which I think, yes, I have. I've got saved as a shortcut here. So I can just click on here, and then you can just click the button and start recording, and then download that as an MP3 file. So I could just click here and start to record and just give any audio that I wanted to. Just click stop.
Can I just say on that, it's called online voice recorder, and anyone can use it.
Yeah, absolutely free. And then I'll click save, and it basically downloads it as an MP3. And then what I would need to do is upload that into my Google Classroom, or into my Google Drive, sorry. Now, this sounds like a very long-winded way, so I'll show you a quicker way afterwards, okay? But this is the basic way. So I might have a folder called audio, and I tend to do that because file sharing permissions can be a real pain. So I have one folder called audio where all of my audio files go, and that way everything picks up the right settings. And I'm just going to upload the file.
So can I just pause? So on that, you deliberately set the setting for that as share with all, is it?
Yes, so that way you don't get anybody getting a message that they can't play it. Okay, so that's gone in there. And then what I would do is open that, make sure I've got the shareable link. There we go. Grab the shareable link for it. And you can see this is already about sort of 9 steps. So I grab the shareable link, and then in the actual Google form itself, in the question, or sometimes I just add a description, and I would just put it in there and say, listen and respond below, for example, okay? And I might then add the questions in there and give them the options. And then when you preview that form, so if I click the little I button, you see it just shows as a direct link, okay? So that's like the old-fashioned way of doing it. But what I would do now, having just been talking and listening, is I would do it slightly differently. So I would remove that now. And I would use Moat, which I know many people on the call will probably have heard of. Moat used to be just previously for verbal feedback and things like that, but now Moat is available on any website. So it's in my extensions up here. I just click here and I can record a voice note just by clicking on the little M. So I'm just going to say, hi everyone, just a quick welcome from me. Thanks for coming along tonight. Click done and it copies it to my clipboard. And then I can just paste that in down there. And that's sort of 2 steps instead of sort of 17 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the way I would do that as a workaround.
And also, if you go for the multiple choice option, you could have audio for each multiple choice option, couldn't you, Darren?
You could do, yeah, yeah.
So you just pasted that link into the description, and that did
Absolutely, yeah. And then when you view it, it automatically shows as a hyperlink, and they can just click on it, and it will take them out of the form in a new window, so it doesn't close their form, and they can just get a transcript. Hi everyone, just a quick welcome from me. Thanks for coming along tonight. And it's just as simple as that.
Mm.
So I reckon a lot of teachers are thinking about using this with their textbook audio, and obviously we want everybody to use textbook materials legally and as in their institutions. Do you think it would pick up the audio that you'd play, say, through Caboodle or Pearson Active Learn?
As long as it's played, I think it's one of those things. If you play it just out loud through your speakers on your laptop, it's probably a little bit broken and a bit fuzzy. If you did it through a proper microphone and things like that, it might be better. You know,
because I think that's the biggest issue a lot of people are facing. Like even when you're in a live, and you're in a meet and you're trying to do a listening over it. I think I saw the question earlier, Joe. Sorry to take it off you, but someone said, "How can we effectively play audio?" And I have to admit, I'm struggling. I've managed it once, and I haven't done anything differently. And in my other classes, it didn't work. It was too tinny.
Was that with the sharing tab, Sam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it does depend on the quality of the laptop you're using as well.
Yeah, I mean, this may sound obvious, but I suppose I understand that it's this copyright thing, isn't it? But I use Camtasia to capture all the audio and then upload it from there.
Okay. So the best thing is to upload a sound file as opposed to attempt to use it directly through the source.
So Marilyn is saying, so I share the tab with the students and mute my microphone and the students hear it well.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that people are having mixed experiences of that. Certainly last week, there were some issues with tab sharing. Quite often when people went to share a tab, there were some issues within Meet, and it was basically closing the tab. But I think that's been sorted now.
There's an interesting point from Miriam saying, when I'm using Moat, the transcript is overall poor. Any ideas what the issue might be? Could it be a problem of having an accent? I mean, you can edit, can't you, the transcript?
Yeah, absolutely. You can edit it afterwards. And they are gradually adding in more and more languages. And what I love, the transcript is fantastic because, of course, you can use the transcript and translate it. So you can have your audio instructions or your audio in one language and then the transcript in another. Which is really, really handy for not necessarily from an MFL perspective, but for students who are EAL to be able to listen to the feedback in the English and be able to hear the English, but then understand it in their own language is a real bonus.
And we need to say as well, the transcript feature is a paid feature, isn't it? Yeah. That's not free. Yeah. So for free, you can record up to 30 seconds as many as you want. But if you want to record for longer, I think it's £19 for 90 seconds and then about £50 for the transcription per year.
Yeah.
Have we dealt with that, do you think? Whoever asked that, can you just say yes if you're happy? Father Christmas was very happy. We've got Noel with us today.
So with the video option, Sam, could you just sort of go through how that would work? I know Esmeralda Salgado, she uses Bitmojis and Photo Speak to turn her avatar into a talking character, make it into a video, and then put it onto Forms. How would you?
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's quite a lot of work, but there we are. But what would you do?
Admit, I've not done it yet. I was just thinking of a workaround. So you can use things like Loom and Screencastify, and it can ping it straight into a private YouTube channel so that it's not visible to anybody else. So if you can get the audio into that video, then you can import the video link directly from your private area in YouTube and then paste it into your form. But it's not something I've tried because I've actually just set listenings more independently.
And would it work with private, or does it have to be unlisted?
Yeah, it's probably unlisted is the correct terminology. Yeah. I mean, the other thing, and it's not Google related, but we use Caboodle in my school, the Oxford University Press platform, and a lot of people don't know that you can directly share a link to the audio file there. I can show you quickly how that works.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Let me stop sharing for you.
I'll just log in and then I'll share my screen.
Yeah.
Are you happy for me to carry on recording? Or is
yeah, that's fine because it doesn't give anything away.
That is an option with things like the Pearson Active Teach as well, if you've got the page to that. Isn't it?
Okay, hopefully you can see this. So here I've got the A-level Spanish textbook, and at the top you've got resources, which I click on. And I want to find a listening, so I'm just going to pick something from the first unit on immigration, something completely random. So there we go. Here's an audio file. So I want to share the audio file and that transcript, and I can assign it to students now. So once upon a time, way back at the beginning of Caboodle, you used to be able to assign everything in Caboodle to kids, and then they stopped doing that and made it just assignments, like proper assessment things, which for me was particularly useless. But they brought it back, so you can assign it to your kids. So if I click that, it would bring up my class and then I could add it to them. But what I was talking about earlier is this share button. You click share, and if I click on Google Classroom, it can take me straight to the typical pop-up that you get and allocate it to a class, or I could just click copy link. So yes, obviously it needs to be visible to students. Copy the link, it's been copied. And then I'm going to take that link and paste it in. Can you see the new tab I've opened, or do I need to reshare?
Yeah, it's fine.
And there it is. There's the two things that I shared that I wanted directly from Caboodle. So if you use Caboodle at any key stage, then they still have to log in. Obviously, it worked directly because I was already logged in. So that's the one thing they do need to know. They log into Caboodle, but it's useful.
Well, that's already had a happy person there. Make sure Caboodle links will be shared next week.
Fantastic. So
is that Rachel Tattersall by any chance?
It is.
That's my deputy head.
Oh, there we are.
Got the fan club in.
Hey. So hopefully that's everyone's questions around audio and sharing audio. Yeah, as you say, there's been lots of people talking about that, not only in classroom but also in Teams as well, about sharing audio. So that's fantastic. That's great.
Do any of you guys use ActiveLearn? Because I know that once upon a time you could get a URL at the bottom and share that, but has that changed recently?
Yeah, recently it's changed to needing a code. I haven't used it personally, but I know my colleagues that have used it have said that where they used to be able to just share, now it asks for a code.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what people are saying in the chat.
Code, but not a login.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, shall we move on to the next question? Is that all right?
Yeah.
So as we were talking about forms, we've got a question saying, I'm new to Google Classroom. How do you create a form or quiz in Google Classroom that will allow all the teachers to see the results? As currently, if I create the quiz, the results come to me only and not to the teachers whose classes I shared the quiz with. Hope this makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's quite a common problem actually for people that are fairly new to using forms in Google Classroom, in that basically whoever's the form owner will get the responses. So the best way to do it is to make your form, and then rather than share it with the other teachers, is actually give them a copy of it, and then they upload it and they will get their own set of responses, and then they're separated out rather than all being in the same spreadsheet in the same form.
Is that possible to show the button?
Yeah, could you demo? Do you mean make a force copy, or do you?
Yeah, you can do. Yeah, let me just. Put myself on screen. Here we go. So if I open up Google Classroom here, and there's no worries with this one because it's a demo classroom, so nothing to worry about in terms of recording. I can just go into this class, go to classwork, and if I do it here, I can create a quiz, for example.
Oh, you've got some interesting drop downs that I've not seen before. You're going to have to tell me about that in a minute.
Right, okay.
It's a new chat line, isn't it?
Yeah, show us your drop downs. Yeah. So I can open up the form here, and obviously I can make it a quiz, and I can add answer keys and points and everything else. But what tends to happen is people will add somebody else as a collaborator, which just means they've got access to this form. But then if the same people share the form, all the responses come back here and the other teachers don't get them. So what you can do instead is make a copy. So you can either make a copy yourself and then share it. So if you do that, you click make a copy of a blank quiz. And say, for example, I was going to share it with Sam. I would just say for Sam. And then I would, once I've got that, I'd make Sam a collaborator on that one, and she could kick me off a bit if she wanted to. So I could then just add her as a collaborator, same as you would share a normal document, okay? But the other way of doing it is to quite simply, right at the top of the URL, where it says edit there, just remove that and put copy instead, and then copy that URL and send it to the members of staff, and they will all automatically get their own one when they click on it. So if I open that up in an incognito window, there we go. It's going to first of all ask me to sign in because I'm in a Google form. So I would do all of that. If I just do it in a normal window, just for the sake of it for today, if I go here, I copy, that's what I would see, and every person would see the same thing. They would click make a copy, and it gives them their own version of it. That also works with Jamboard and docs and slides and everything else. Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Just as a follow-up question, Emma's saying, if there are two teachers on the classroom, do they not both get access to the quiz responses?
They can do. If they're on the same classroom, yeah, then if you're a collaborator, you both get access. And what you need to do, if you are a collaborator and you want to know about the responses, come into the responses section here. And if you click on the three dots there, you can choose to get email notifications of new responses. And then you'll get emails to let you know that students are filling it in. And then obviously you can either view the responses here, and they will come up one by one, or you can download them all to a spreadsheet and then just share that. And then each teacher could filter or do whatever they wanted to do if it was across two classrooms or whatever. Okay.
Awesome. Right. The next question, if it's okay, is about splitting your screen, which there's lots of different combinations for this. But the question is, biggest struggle is how to split screen so I can see my Google Meet, but also a PowerPoint full screen while still being able to monitor the chat with only one device. Is that possible?
Yeah. So the way I do it is I don't present my whole screen, I present a window. So what I'm actually, if I stop sharing and reshare, you'll see. At the moment, you can only see my screen, but I've got a different view to that. So if I just stop for a second and reshare and go to that one, this is my whole desktop, which I wasn't sharing originally.
Yeah.
So you can see I've got the chat sitting there at the moment, and that's all I was sharing. Okay.
Oh, it's invisible for us. We can't see your chat.
Yeah, we can't see your chat. We could just
see that.
No, it's just a blank. Well, it's the background. A
Oh,
beautiful
that's
background.
just a blank screen. Oh, right. Okay.
We could just see Cornwall or such like, is that?
Yeah, I don't even know, to be honest with you. So I've got it. It's basically off screen. The way I do it in Google Meet is exactly the same. So I would open up the chat in a have the Meet in a separate window, present in the other window. And for example, if I've got a Google slide open, if you just automatically go to present when you're in Google Slides, like somebody said, it just automatically takes over your whole screen. So if I go to, let's just open this one for argument's sake. Okay, just a little check-in one I was doing with my students. So if you click present, what happens is it takes over your whole screen and you lose the access to your chat. Whereas if you're just sharing the window, so let me just do that again. I'll just share just my window now. If I click present now, it still takes over my whole screen at this end. But if I don't click present and I either choose the presenter view, which is one way of doing it, then it doesn't take over my whole screen and it just gives me the little presenter view window, which also gives me access to audience tools and the Q&A feature. I can either do it that way, okay, or if I don't want to do it that way, I can just, again, do a little trick with the URL and from /edit, replace that with present and just hit enter, and then it will present exactly as a normal slideshow. And I've still got the chat alongside, so I can monitor attendance, I can monitor the chat, I can mute people, okay? Whether that works with PowerPoints as well as slides, I would imagine it would, because it's the window that it's working on, not the whole desktop. But I'll be honest, I don't even have PowerPoint anymore because I don't use it.
Yeah, it does work with PowerPoint. If you make, because that question's just been asked, if you go to set up the, I never used this before, I did this sort of thing, but you go to set up the PowerPoint presentation and one of the options is to browse by an individual window.
Yeah.
That's what it is, isn't it? So,
yeah.
What did you, when you did that business in the, that clever thing, you replaced edit with what, just the word present?
Yes. So everything from / onwards,
yeah.
You've got, if you replace it with present, then it obviously will present it. If you replace it with copy, it will force a copy of it. If you replace it with /template /preview, it will give them a preview template, and then they make their own copy of it.
We're just learning all these secrets, aren't we, here?
That's great.
Look, people going, brilliant. Fatima says, amazing.
Mrs. Flint recommended the Jewelless Chrome extension,
Jewelless,
and there's also tab resize, tab scissors, etc.
Yeah.
Either of you, which ones do you prefer? Which are your favourite ones?
Well, I've stopped using Jewelless because I've now got a bigger screen, so I don't need to, but I have got it installed. So let me just show you. So Jewelless is just an extension. It's absolutely free. And if I just share my screen, so it's just here. It just looks like two columns. And if you just click it, you get a choice of different layouts, either horizontal or vertical split. And you can just choose which ones you want. So you can have, you know, that one there, and then it splits everything for you. And then you can bring it all back again if you feel you need to, just by basically going back to all one big screen again. So it's fairly straightforward from that perspective. So Jewelless is good. Tab scissors and tab glue are really, really simple because it just splits it. And that's really helpful. You can also just drag them. If we are, say for example, I wanted this classwork one and to be able to see that screen as well, I can just click here and just drag to separate and then resize it.
In Windows, you can just ping it to the right and it'll get to the right, and ping it to the left, or you can use the Windows left or Windows right button. My screen's too small to bother with, so I tend to just have my slides in a tab.
Yeah. And if you're on a Chromebook, it's Control and the left square bracket will split your screen, and Control and the right square bracket that will put them back together again.
Very clever.
Very good. And so, Sam, when you say ping to the right, ping to the left, is that the same as the Windows arrows left and right?
Yeah, it just fits it perfectly. So you can see what Darren's doing now because he's moving his things around. If you were on a Windows computer and you were to just pick that up and sort of just swoosh it slightly to one side, it just moves automatically to half the page on the left or half the page on the right, rather than having to automatically size things. But yeah, Windows key left, Windows key right is quicker.
Excellent.
It won't work for you, Joe, because you've got two screens, haven't you?
Well, I think, Darren, how many screens have you got? Is it 3?
I've got 3 on at the moment. Yeah.
3, just the 3.
I've got 3. That's why I couldn't do that clever thing again. So that's why I needed that other trick. And I only learned that yesterday from Jerome about the Windows key and the tab.
Yeah. And Duelless is also a Microsoft Edge Chrome extension as well. So it's not only Chrome
You
extensions.
mentioned Duelless. You lost me on that, but maybe
So
that.
Duelless, Dualless. So
Yeah.
basically, as Darren was showing, you can have different formats. You can have it directly in the middle, or one window's bigger than the other window. And so you just, so if you've got two windows, do you want to demonstrate again? Is that right?
That, almost, what is it? It's an extension for Google that you put there?
Yes, but also there's a Microsoft Edge equivalent. Sorry, so the same. It works on Microsoft Edge as well.
Yeah.
So just before, so how would we even get that? This is where I'm not always sure.
Yeah.
Download as an app.
Do you want to show, Darren?
So if I open it up in the web store, so basically you go to the Chrome web store, search for Duelless, and there you would see add to Chrome, where I've got remove from Chrome, and then it just appears up here as this one. So if I now click on that, I've got this choice of layouts, and I can choose how I want them to be split, horizontal splits that way, or vertical splits that way, whichever you prefer. And that can depend on the orientation of your computer screen as well. So obviously some people have them round the other way.
Oh, thank you ever so much. Thank you. I was
Awesome.
typing at times, right?
Right. I think if it's okay, we're going to go back to a more basic question, if that's all right, which is how do you create a lesson in Google Classroom? So I know, Sam, you went over this in your earlier session. Could you just sort of give us an idea for people new to Classroom? How would you go through those steps?
So I think the best thing is to show and tell. So bear with me and I will pop up.
I'm getting love. People are really, really appreciating this. You two. I don't know if you're able to see all the chat, but going down very well. Thank you very much.
I'm sure Darren is on his three screens, but anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing to say is that I do everything in Chrome, which makes life a lot easier. There it is. And that means when I log in at school, when I log in at home, I'm on my own account. You can see my little Bitmoji there. That's definitely my school one. And then I have all my favorite things up here. So I'm going to click on my Google Classroom and you'll see the array of classrooms that I have. And so in my school this year, we were able to have all our classrooms set up for us automatically, which made our life very, very easy. And previously we have had to create our own classes, I guess before, we figured out how to do all of this. So if you've got your classroom set up, you're sorted. If not, then you click on the plus at the top and then you can create a class in that way. So let's take you into
all right for me to be still recording here just to check?
Yes, there shouldn't be any student names appearing. So here's my classroom. This is what it looks like. So you've got 4 tabs at the top. On my stream, I have very little information other than news. Classwork is the tab you want to go to create a lesson, and you can see that you've got the create button there. So if I click create, I don't have as many as Darren in my options of things to do, but your typical
Can't believe we've got drop down envy. This is ridiculous.
Hashtag drop down envy.
Just click assignment and it gives you the opportunity to create a task where you can add absolutely anything. So let's say you've got a PowerPoint that you've already created. I'm going to say slides actually because it's easier when it's in slides. You could add a PowerPoint, but it's not as intuitive. So you put whatever your title of your lesson is. So I tend to always start with the word classwork because I realize from the student perspective, when they're looking at their screen, it's quite hard for them to differentiate what's going on and where. So sometimes I've even put the word Spanish or French with it. I tend to put the date because at the minute, obviously, they've got work going along. They've got a lot of different things going on. And then I'll put a title because in my markbook, I need to know what it was. The date isn't going to be any use to me. So Google session. So I'll put all of my instructions in. So I read a really good tweet the other day to basically keep the instructions as simple as possible and number them. So it might be 1. Click on the link to, I don't know, Caboodle and go to page, whatever, 74. 2, open the slides and complete the work. The slides should say everything that I want it to. So actually, the work has taken place in my slides. So if I click add, I can add something from my Google Drive. The nicest thing about Google is that it's recent things that appear first. So I've probably got a lesson that I've used at some point in the last 24 hours that will appear there. Oh, apologies, we've got some student names because they're doing work.
Well, I can stop. I'll just stop the recording for the moment, right? So,
so year 8 are doing diet and health, and I don't know. This is their lesson on food and opinions. So the main thing here is to ensure that if you're wanting them to write on their own copy of the document, that you pick that third one. You can edit this assignment at any time, but if you've forgotten to click that third one and you go back into an edit, that will disappear. It might be that you only want students to be able to view it. You don't want them to be able to edit your document that's sitting in the cloud. Or maybe you do want them to all edit the same one. That's absolutely fine too. But typically, I'm going to want to give them all a copy to fill in. So to those of you really new to Google Classroom, you can choose the students you want to select for it. You can change how many points it's worth. So you might want to leave it a percentage. You might want to do it out of 9. You can set a due date. You can set a topic. Rubrics are quite interesting as well. So I've used that for, say, 16 or 32 marker questions. Then you can assign it, or you can click the drop down and schedule it, or you could simply save it as a draft. So I'm going to come out of it, and you can see it's there as a draft. If I tagged it, if I put it in a topic, then it would go into the list here of different things. So my current topic for Year 10 Spanish, we're on Tecnología, and you can see all the different tasks there. So the topic automatically was in the drop down. You can move your topics around. So obviously we were using this before, way back in September. You can narrow it down on the left hand side and view it there as a student, but I tend to find they don't look at this view very often. They tend to go to their to-do list because that shows them what they need to do today. You can create other things. A quiz assignment would automatically create a form without clicking on, going to a new form like Darren showed us. You can set a simple question. So I've used that as a check-in with students. How are you today? How's your work today? And it's a very simple, it's one single question on the screen that they can just click and you can see how they're doing. If you're wanting to post something that isn't work that you don't want to physically mark, then you can just click on material. And it could just be information, or maybe you've got a post from last year or a different class and you want to reuse it, then you can there. And obviously you can organise your topics as well. I think topics are really, really useful for me to see what's going on and to be organised. Otherwise, I think I'd go a bit insane. But the nice thing is you can move things around quite easily. So I could drag and drop this up there if I fancied. But then my OCD kicks in because it's not an enrichment activity and I have to move it back. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, I'm sure that's fantastic. That's great.
I think it's worth saying as well. Go on.
I was just thinking one step back where you were showing us that we had a question about the rubrics.
Oh yeah.
How you set that, because you were saying that that's something you're using more. That would be helpful.
Yeah. So I've tried it with a 16-mark question, and what you have to do is you have to upload from a spreadsheet where you've got your rubric, and then it can pop it in automatically. But I have to admit, actually, the template that I used didn't work, and I just typed it in because it was annoying. And so I could divide it into 2 sections. So with the 16 marker for AQA, you've got your content, and then your 6 points of quality of language, range of language, quality of language. So you can type in or copy and paste in your criteria, and then when you're marking, you just literally click each of the 2 boxes for your 10 points, up to 10 points and up to 6 points. And
is that something you could show us, or is that?
I think the only way I've got it set up is directly with kids. Have you got it, Darren?
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah,
that would be good, because I think that really is, that fits in so well with the whole lesson sequence, doesn't it? Marking it.
I'll show you. Well, I'll show you 2 versions actually. I'll show you how to create one, and then we can have a quick look at one of mine that's already running. Okay. It's worth mentioning as well, while I just open this up, that Sam's absolutely right. Topics are brilliant, but it's worth bearing in mind that you can create a topic without having any posts in it, and that's absolutely fine. But students won't see the topic until there's a post in it that's been published. So if you've got, say, for example, you can have loads of stuff set up, but they won't see it until you actually publish it. So you can have a whole draft of stuff ready to go later on in the year, but it's not going to clog up their classroom until you actually publish it. So if I just open up Classroom here, and it doesn't really matter what we're doing, but if I just, we're just doing this as a test document, I might have asked them to do something here, and you have to physically give some instructions and everything else for it to be able to add a mark to it. So now I can click rubric.
Are you showing? You're not showing your screen at the moment.
Sorry, forgot. Easily done. Been a long day. There we go.
Fine. You're doing fine, Darren.
That's the right one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've just opened an assignment. I've called it test, and I've just typed a load of gobbledygook in there. Okay. And it's allowed me then, once I put a name and an instruction in, to click on the rubric button and either create a rubric, reuse one I've used before, or import one from Sheets, and Sam was saying. So I've used rubrics before, so I could reuse one, and it would find any that I've done before. Okay. So I could use either of those if I wanted to, if I knew they were going to be relevant, or I can just create a new one. And they're very easy to do because you can choose whether you want scoring on or not. So you can give number of points for each individual thing. And this criteria might be, I don't know, communication, for example. So you could use this with, like you're saying, your 16 mark questions. You could have, bits for communication and for various other bits as well. Accuracy, grammar, and so on. So you can have like 1 point available for, let's just keep it simple for today, pass. Okay. And then you can just put a description in here. So able to form basic sentences with connectives, for example. Okay. So you make that your lowest point, and then you can connect another one. And you might give that one 2 points and call that a merit. And it doesn't have to be, it could be grade 6, grade 7, could be anything you like, because you can build your own. And again, this might be as before, but with quantifiers and 2 tenses, for example. And then you can add a third one, which might be worth 3, and that might be distinction, and so on. Okay. And you've got to put your description in there. So it might just be awesome French. Okay, just to keep it really simple for now. You can add more criterion if you want to, but then this is going to be at the moment marked out of 3. So I'm just marking them on communication out of 3. They're either going to get a pass, a merit, or a distinction. Okay, I just click save, and then it gives me my rubric there. When I assign the task, even if I just give a blank Google Doc in there for them to do, and I'm doing this at the minute just to demonstrate another question that popped up as well. So let's call this one, let's call it, there we go. Maybe it's to do with vacaciones or whatever it might be. Okay, I can just close that now. Eventually that will rename itself. It takes a few minutes, but I'm just going to click there, make a copy for each student, and that will automatically name that file for each student. So they'll see the link, they'll click on it, and then it will create their document for them. You'll get a copy, or you'll get a link to the copy in your Google Drive. They'll get a link to the copy. It will be in Google Classroom as well, and you can just assign it. And then the students at the other end, and I think I'm on this one no, I'm not. Yeah, so if I go on in one of my other accounts, I should be able to see that. Bear with me, wrong button. And there. I'll go into my Google Classroom and into there. I will see in classwork that I've just had something posted there. It was this test document, which is the newest thing. There it is. I can view my assignment. I can click there, and there you can see my rubrics. At the moment, I haven't got any marks. But I can open this up as a student and see what it is I've got to do to get to each level. And then as a teacher, what I can do is I can see that student's work. I can open it up, and I can very easily, on their document, open it up and assign the rubric by just clicking on it here and going, right, actually, that's fantastic. It's not quite there yet, but it's worth 2. And it automatically says 2 marks. I can click it and return it. And then the student at the other end will just refresh the screen and say, I've popped in brand new. And you can see there, that's blued out. I've got 2 points. It's a merit. Okay, what do I need to do to get a distinction? Oh, okay, I need to produce some awesome French. And I know that's very, very basic, but obviously you can set those up in advance. You can share them across departments. So you can do like 1 rubric each and then share them between you, because basically when you create a rubric from scratch, like we've just done, you can then access it as a Google Sheet, because it becomes a Google Sheet as well, back in the main Google Classroom.
That's really helpful to show that. Thank you.
We could use that. So we don't know what's happening with speaking endorsed things at the minute.
Yeah.
I know in my faculty, certainly we've been setting some speaking tasks. I think somebody asked this before, how can you get students to send audio in? The simplest way that we do is if they don't want to use their phones to do it, they go to Vocaroo and just share the URL with us. And then, yeah, use the rubric of past merit distinction and jobs are good.
Yeah.
And then, but presumably you'd have to then download the audio, because the audio would be deleted, won't it, after I think 3 months on Vocaroo? Is that?
Yeah. You could also use Flipgrid, because that's got audio only version as well now.
Yeah, true.
And that integrates nicely with Google Classroom as well.
Which one was that?
So Flipgrid.
Oh, yeah.
And also Screencastify Submit would work as well.
Cool. Glenn in the chat was asking, can you give half marks for the rubrics, or does it have to be full marks?
They're full marks, or no marks at all with the rubrics. But you know, there's nothing to stop you. If there were half marks, you could just double it up, and instead of, you know, a 1 and a 1.5 and a 2, having a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, and working around it that way.
Okay. While we're looking at assignments, Marilena's just quickly said, when students are handing in documents to assignments, I can't always write comments on them to mark their work. What am I doing wrong?
Probably not anything. It's probably more like them. What tends to happen a lot, particularly students who are new to Google Classroom, is they'll go to hand in an assignment. So if I go back to that assignment that I just set actually and return it to the student, there we go. So that one there that I just started on, let's make sure that's returned. That wasn't the one, it was the other one. So it's this one here with the 2 marks. So I've made sure I've returned it. If I go in as a student, what sometimes happens is the students forget where they're supposed to hand things in. And it's something that we gave as feedback to the development team with Google Classroom a couple of days ago, actually. So I'm in as a student now with my orange screen to match my head. I go to classwork, I open up my test, I open up my document. Okay, the teacher's returned it to me and told me it's worth, at the moment, it's worth a merit. So I type away on it, and quite often, instead of clicking turn in, they'll share it because they think they need to share it with us. They forget that we've shared it with them. We've already got it. We've always got access to it. We're never going to lose access to it.
Right.
So quite often they will click share and then look for our email address, and that will send us a message. But if they have got it in the wrong mode, for example, and it's really easy to do because it's right next door, this is in edit mode at the moment. Quite often, you might find it suddenly just dropped over into suggestion mode, and then you can type, but it comes up as a suggestion and not an actual option. Or even worse, it could just be in view only mode. And then if they put it in view only mode, there's nothing you can do about it as such, because all you can do is view it. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Just under that share button, that little pencil for view only, suggestions, and for edit. Okay.
Awesome.
And if they haven't turned it in, you probably can't mark it. And also, if you don't return it to them, they can't continue to work on it. So that's worth bearing in mind as well.
It's probably worth explaining how the file system works in Google Classroom, and I think it links to a question that was asked right at the very beginning. So when you create something like Darren has just done there, a document in Google Classroom, Google Drive automatically has a classroom folder for you and puts everything in there under the class, under the title of the assignment. And when you make yours, it's the original, the template, and then every student gets their own version. So some people have talked about editing their original, and oh, it's not going out to the students. Well, that's because at that moment in time, it pinged out that version. That's not now changeable. That's their document to work on. And I did that in a lesson the other day, and I only had a handful that were live with me, and they were all working on their own copies of, it was some translation work. I went in through my classroom file, found the assignment folder, and could see who was working at that moment in real time, opened up that document, and then could give them feedback in comments live, because we were both in it at the same time, which was nice.
Which was a question earlier on, someone was saying, how can you see them live? So that is, the answer is yes, it is possible.
Yeah. Darren, whilst your screen's up, would you just show where the classroom file is? Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
So you go class drive folder, you access it there, and the students, when they click on themselves, they get a little icon here that says basically all of my work, and it's all there as well. So it's access to the same thing, but it's dead easy to get to. And the other thing, just looking at a comment that's popped up in the chat there, when you return it to them, obviously they then get back ownership of it. If you've made comments on their work, this is one of the things I think a lot of people worry about, particularly in the days of, you know, accountability and everything else. So if I, as a teacher, comment on their work, so they've done some work and I comment on that, whether that's using Mote or just the comment function or whatever it might be, using my comment bank or whatever it might be, and various bits and pieces, people worry that the student then goes in, opens up their Google Classroom, sees that they've got feedback. So they open up the classroom, they go into their classwork, they open it up, they can see straight away that they've got some feedback. So I've said there's a spelling mistake. There we go. So these are my suggestions that have come up, and there was a spelling mistake on the other one that I did. Okay. People think, oh my God, they've disappeared, and they start panicking, but they're always up there. They're always in that comment history. Okay. So they haven't disappeared. They've just gone out the way. And you can always get them back anytime you like. And you can, even if somebody closes a comment and says, well, that's all done and dusted, and you disagree, you get the option to reopen it, because you can just click comment again and start working again and so on. And it's always in that little drop down up there, that big comment box. Okay. And yeah, Motes stay in there as well as the links.
Fantastic. Wow. I can see everyone's learning masses. This is brilliant. We had another question.
We're up to 3 minutes to 9. So I think for the speakers particularly to decide how long, I think we'd said up until 9 o'clock. So I know I chatted at the beginning to set it up for a while, but I
don't mind either way. I'm fine.
Me too. I'm not going anywhere.
Well, you've got to tell us, because we're very aware people have got teaching tomorrow and that sort of thing.
Should we say 9:30? Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
Not beyond 9:30, yeah.
Okay. Lovely. Right. So,
Karen's getting a warm feel from the support.
Right. Glenn in the chat has said, a quick mention, I also use the online rubric add-on in Google Sheets. Sends an email directly to the student.
Cool. Not use that one myself. So
okay, cool. So Glenn, if you're still here, can you put the link to that in the chat? Or let us know how you find it. Presumably you just go to Sheets and click on add-ons and...
Yes, that's exactly it, Joe. Once you set up your class, it will require you to put in students' emails, and then you come up with your rubric. You create it once, and then it's very, very easy to grade because you've got your spreadsheet. You're putting in your numbers, your comments at the end, and then you can, in one swoop, you can send the evaluation to all students. It's Very, very clever.
I've given you permission to share your screen if it is
Oh.
appropriate. It's up to you.
All right.
Is that all right?
Yes, that's
Thanks,
fine.
Glenn.
Glenn's our friend, everybody. Glenn Cake, who's done some fantastic Kahoots for French. Amazing.
Too many windows open here now to...
How many screens have you got, Glenn? How many
So
screens?
I only have two, unlike Darren. I only have two there.
Me too.
All right.
I'm a 2-screener like you. Yeah.
So here we go. Can everyone see my screen there now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, you create your Excel spreadsheet. You go to add-ons, and you're going to add on this rubric called online rubric, quite easy to find, under get add-ons, of course. And then what it's going to do, it's going to prompt you to actually make up the comments that you want to associate with each and every score. All right, so once you've done that once, then you can opt to send the results back. You can email, and you can customize the email. You can send them all at once, and it's a tremendous tool. Just check it out, folks. It's well worth it.
What's it called again?
It's called, it's under add-ons, and it's called online rubric. You see, you can set the scale. So this one, for example, was out of 20, I do believe. So I multiplied it by 5. It's going to ask you to verify your student list. And it's very, very, I'm not doing a good job of showing it, folks, but it's very, very good. Check it out.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
I'll
Glenn.
be able to edit that bit with the names. Don't worry, Joe.
Okay, no worries. Get the old Camtasia out with the blurred background.
But I like all the phrases. Bel effort. Excellent. Oh, excellent use of target language there. Wow.
Okay,
I try.
Thank you so much, Glenn. That's great. We had a great question about GDPR, and I see, Darren, you've answered that in the chat. Can you maybe just get on the recording? Can you just give us a bit more explanation of how that would work? Is it because, I mean, how easy is it to contact developers or check their terms and conditions in relation to GDPR?
That very much depends on who's made the add-ons, to be honest with you. Some are very, very responsive and will come back to you very quickly. Others are not so. So it's really a question of, you just need to be happy that your data protection officer has given the approval for you to use it, because with the add-ons, of course, the information isn't necessarily staying within G Suite. If it's through Google Classroom, it's within G Suite, there's no problem. If you're using an add-on, potentially that information is being housed somewhere else. And that's been further complicated since Brexit, obviously, because we are now a non-EU country.
I remember having a look at the Google Meet extension, which takes the attendance of the students, I think, and I immediately thought, I don't know how this could be GDPR compliant. So I just immediately, I had to play with it, and then I just removed it. But obviously, you know, it's really important that everyone checks as much as they can that things are compliant, and don't use anything you're not sure about. Lovely. Right, let's do another. Oh, we had a really good question about, can you split the markbook into sections?
That's something I asked for at the feedback session that we had yesterday. Not while it's in there. You can export your markbook and then you can do whatever you want with it, but you can't do anything with it at the moment while it's still in Classroom.
Cool. Lovely.
But we did ask them to be able to kind of
it's on the roadmap.
Reorder and everything else. Yeah.
Excellent. Right. I'm very wary of the early questions that we got, because I know that we've had a lot, some more ones more lately. And let's have a look. But I want to do the ones at the beginning. So, right. I noted this one, I think, came up. Teacherhead did Tom Sherrington did a tweet about this, which is, if you want a slide for each student to work on during the lesson, so that you can live mark by flicking between slides, can someone demo how to do this, please? So presumably that means grid view in Google Slides.
Yeah, so it's very similar. I mean, Sam, do you want to do this? Or
No, go for it, love. I'm a bit more concerned because obviously mine is my real Google Classroom. Yours is all set up for training.
Yeah, sure, of course.
I don't have as many examples as I would have on a full class, obviously, but Let's say, for example, let's open that one up again because there's 3 in there. Okay, so that could be a doc, or it could be a slide, it could be a Jamboard, it could be anything. So let me just share my screen again. Okay, so looking at this one here, actually, let's go back to the task first of all. So I'll go to classwork and I can just open up the assignment and view the assignment. I can see 1's been marked, 2 have been assigned that need handing in, and they're sorted here. So I need to mark Toby's. So I'm going to go in and have a look at Toby's. Oh, he hasn't done very much. So I'm not even going to give him a rubric for that one. But I might say to him, if he was working on this live, I would see his little icon popping up here. If it was a slide deck or a Jamboard or something like that, where you've got multiple pages, if you click on their little profile picture, it takes you to the same place in the document they're working. So you don't have to work out where they are. So if it's like a 17 slide deck, you click on their icon when you open it up, they're on slide 14, it zooms you straight to slide 14, so you can see where they're working. And you can either, type directly into the document, or you can add a comment, just the same way as we did earlier, and just popping that at the side, so spelling mistake or whatever. So just so we've got some text in here. He hasn't put anything in. I could give him a private comment that might just be something like, I can see you haven't started yet. Is there anything you're stuck with? And all that kind of thing. And then I can just use this drop down or the scroll to go through the other students. So I can just literally jump through one by one, and I'm now on the next student. Okay. Let's leave them a comment because that's rubbish. I'm in suggestion view. So I change that. Okay, I'll leave them a comment, which is going to be spelling. And I'm feeling like I'm using this a lot now. Luckily, it's in my comment bank and actual Spanish. Okay, so if that was going to be a comment I was going to use, I can comment that. And then because I've added it, I can click on the 3 dots. I can now add that to my comment bank. So that now becomes part of my comment bank. And if I want to use that on a next document, so if I go to this one and feel like I've got to say the same thing, obviously he hasn't written anything, then I can just say, for example, in here, I might add something there, and I would then put that comment in again. But as I start, it will go, and it's picked up already that one I want, and that massively speeds up the marking time. Because you can populate your own comment bank anytime you like, either by adding previously made comments using the 3 dots, or just adding them there. So, just something simple like verb forms, add it in. And as soon as you start typing in the comment verb, what you'll see is it starts to think about, okay, there you go, verb forms, bang. And it's just nice and quick that way. Particularly if you're giving very detailed feedback, but it's going to be quite repetitive, then you can kind of pre-populate those with very good sort of rubric, mark band related comments.
So just to clarify, in that situation, you're making a copy for each student, and then you're going to that document. You can click on their avatar, and that will jump to where they are in the document. Is that right?
Yeah, and that happens. Even in Google Docs, it would happen. So if this was a 19-page policy, and we were all trying to QA it, and I wanted to see where somebody else was QAing, I can click on their profile picture, which would be up here, and it would take me to where they are in the document right now.
Right. Would you recommend using the Google Slides presentation grid view mode, where you've got all the students working on the one document, and then you assign one student per slide? Or do you think what you're doing here is the fact that kids could then muck around with each other's work, I suppose, that way?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the students and how well they are versed in doing it. In primary, quite often, you'll get one slide and their names on their slide, and they just go on and they all work on their slide. And that's nice for peer assessment and seeing each other's work. But equally, if it's higher stakes work, you might not want people being able to see what somebody else has written and then copying it and using it. So I tend to use this way, making a copy for each student individually with the older year groups. But yeah, you can use the grid view and say 32 slides, and your slide 1, your slide 2, your slide 3, and so on. And the same in a Jamboard or anything like that if you wanted to.
Awesome.
Okay.
Right. We had a question about
Hang on,
personalizing.
just want-
sorry, Helen.
Only if the person who asked that original question, if we just check, is that okay, or did they particularly want us to show doing the slideshow? I don't know who it was.
I did write down the names of the people. I just put the questions in there.
If we just say, is that okay? Whoever it was who asked, it's fine. Julie says.
Okay, all good. Right. Okay. Right. Yeah, we've got a question about personalizing Google Classroom. When I'm working on it, it's whole school, so I can see all the subjects and all the assignments. Can the review? Hang on. Right. What the person's written is, can the review to do just refer to my lessons so I know what needs marking?
I can deal with that one if you like, because that doesn't show anything that I wouldn't that I want to keep particularly private. So this is my Google Classroom. I have my entire faculty in here. Oh my goodness, I would go insane if I got all of their notifications. So every time I was invited to one of those, I removed all the notifications. And then if I want to see what I've got to review in terms of my marking, I can click to review. And again, my viewpoint is everybody's. So because my Google Classroom is organized and only my classes are towards the top of my list, I just click here and I can see my own classes in the order that they were there on the screen. So I know those top ones are all of mine. And the other thing that you might have spotted is my headers. So I made my own little Mrs. Broom's Google Classroom little header just to start to differentiate. And Google's a bit odd, it picks out random colors. People try and do it so that the colors disappear and it doesn't work. Google are in control of all of the colors. You can select the themes that when you're in the classroom, you can change a theme and it can turn into different colors. So some of my colleagues will just have nice differentiated colors. But for me, I have my little header, and then for my A-level groups, I have the Guggenheim Indelbau because I lived there for a few years.
Sam, can you just show, you mentioned you turned off your notifications. Can you just show how you did that for people?
Yep. So all the way down at the bottom here, you've got settings. And again, here you can see notifications. So I do want notifications via email. I do want to know about all of these different things. Now classes that I teach, and then a bit further down the bottom, class notifications. So these are for all of the classes. So the ones at the top are mine, and then as my colleagues' classes appear, they're all turned off. And by the way, if you wanted to change your name, so when I first was in Google, it came up with my full name, Samantha Broom. Well, I don't want that for the kids. I was able to do it through my account settings, so I'm now Mrs. S. Broom in Google Classroom, which I prefer.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Thank you. Right, another question. Is there a way in the classwork section to ensure that the newest topic goes to the top of the classwork instead of the bottom? I always have to drag it from the bottom upwards, which is inconvenient when the classroom has been in use for 3 years. I've made this suggestion numerous times to Google in the feedback part, but it hasn't changed. Any advice?
Yeah, so if you want to guarantee it's the very top thing, don't put it in a topic. And that will automatically put it at the top. And then you can just put it in a topic later on.
I think for me, when I put something in, it always goes to the top. The only time it ever goes out of order is if I've actually scheduled something, say for Friday's lesson before I've done Wednesday's lesson, and it goes in the order that I've posted it. So I don't know why it's going to the top, to the bottom when...
I think they mean in terms of if they've got lots of topics and they post something in a topic that's further down the page, you wouldn't necessarily see it when you first open the page. So if you desperately know that you want your students to know, right, look at the top of the classwork page for your work, don't put it in a topic to start with, leave it out until they've done it and then categorize it into the topic afterwards.
Awesome. That's really awesome advice. Thank you. If it's okay, we got a few questions around Google Meet. The first is, what is the breakout rooms extension like? Is anyone using it? We don't have the enterprise version with built-in breakout features. So just to clarify for those people watching, so to have the integrated Google, the breakout rooms within Google Meet, you have to have the enterprise version, don't you? I think, but
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 Chrome extensions that allow you to do breakout rooms. Which is the most successful, or what advice would either of you give?
I've not used it.
Not used it. Okay.
I'm very lucky because I'm on Giuseppe, so I've got the full breakout rooms. I did use one of the breakout rooms extensions just to try it, and the problem I found was it doesn't differentiate between teachers and students. So I actually ended up in my own lobby, unable to do anything because I wasn't then able to let me in because I was in the lobby. So it's always good to try these things out with a couple of guinea pigs and friends and things beforehand, because yeah, I think some of them get rushed out really, really quickly and are brilliant, but things change very often and that can often break them as well. So from the point of view of breakouts, I think the easiest way round it is actually, if you desperately want to use breakouts and you haven't got Giuseppe, I think you're better off creating, say, for example, 4 nickname meets, having them all open, putting the links to them in a document that you share with students, and basically say to them, you know, you are going to this one, you are going to this one, you are going to this one, and then you can jump in and out between them. The only problem then is sound. So if you use the mute tab extension, you can mute individual tabs, and therefore you don't have all of the sound from all of the meets and the feedback problems that you might have otherwise.
And you demonstrated that one to us live, didn't you, in your Tilt webinar, Darren? I think.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So if people want to watch that back, it's on the AWL London webpage or on my YouTube channel, which is well. Mrs. Flint has just written. There are 2 for the extensions. One is a purple bee. Sorry, I can't remember the name, which takes a little time to set up, but my colleague really liked it. The second one is called attendees and breakout rooms, and it's easier to set up on the spot. I haven't used that one myself. So I don't know if it's true to say that you can record in any of the breakout rooms. I know, yeah. So that's also obviously another issue, which I know we talked about this yesterday on Teams, that that's an issue. Schools are not allowing some people to use breakout rooms because of the fact that you can't record within the Google Meets, but you can apparently in Teams, or you have to have a spokesperson in each group to be the recorder, as it were. Okay, lovely. We had a few more questions about Meet, which is right. I think we probably answered this one already. We just go through it. When doing a Google Meet, presenting a window, is there a way of still seeing all the members of the Google Meet, not just the chat box, or being able to rotate the people you see? I only seem to be able to see about 6 students and a black box that says you are presenting. Is that around the grid layout that you choose, do you think?
Yeah, as soon as you start presenting, that is the only problem. And that was one of the feedbacks we gave to the team yesterday as well, in that, you know, we know we're presenting, so we don't really need to see that. It would be much more helpful to be able to see the students. So we asked them to make that I'm presenting thing a lot smaller and enable us to be able to see the students on screen at the same time.
Okay, and Julie's suggesting use the grid extension, but then that's built in now, isn't it? The fact you can do the tiles, but that's great. Right, quite a long one, this one. Hello, I have a problem with the Meet links automatically generated by my own classrooms. I'm supposed to have an advanced user account with access to breakout rooms, polls, etc. However, when I use any of the links to Meet from my classroom, it doesn't let me use any host features. It's like I'm not the host, the creator of the video conference. I can't even mute my annoying students. Well, I'm just reading this anyway. I can use my superpowers when I create new meets, and I tried resetting the Meet links of my classrooms, but I had no luck. Any idea about what the problems may be?
Yeah, quite. This is a really tricky problem. Basically, the classroom links are nickname meets. And with a nickname meet, once the meet is live, then people can access because there's already somebody in there and therefore it seems to be okay. The problem you've got is when you click to the link for a Google Classroom link and you go into that join meet screen where you've got your mini screen and it's do you want to join or don't you sort of thing, if you just sit on that screen and you don't actually go into the Meet as the teacher, the Meet is open for the students anyway. And they can actually go in and they take over host controls. So you probably find that the students were able to kick people out, which was happening early doors. So it's really important as a teacher, if you're using the Google Classroom links, which is why I say I always hide it, go in myself first of all, and then make it visible to the students. And that way I guarantee that link's not been activated and the students can't access without me being in there. So click to the join page and then actually make sure you click that join button and you're in the Meet before you share the link with anybody.
And in our school, we've been told exactly that, be the first one in there and then click on the blue badge and turn the top, well, I turn the top 2 toggles off. So the first one means that they have to ask to join, so that when I get the you know, I don't know, Mr. B-E-N Dover trying to join my classroom, then I can reject them. And it stops them from sharing their screen. Not that I've ever had a problem with a student sharing their screen unnecessarily. I'd keep the chat on though, because a lot of ours don't use their microphones and prefer to talk in the chat. But again, you can control the chat on the right hand side. You can turn it off. So if you've got a bit of a rambunctious class, you can just turn it off at any point. You can warn them verbally and then get rid of it.
If you are finding that students are getting into your Meet and that's not, and you are going in and you're being the first one in there, I think probably the best thing to do is to speak to your administrator, because it may be that the students have got rights to create a Meet for themselves. So effectively, they might have the same rights as teachers. And I know that's been an issue in a few schools. So the students should be in a separate organisational unit in the admin console, and they shouldn't have rights to start or record a Meet. And if they haven't got those rights, and you haven't clicked into the Meet, they shouldn't be able to access it. Okay.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Lovely. Is there...
Sorry. Just to follow on with what Sam said there.
Sorry.
I was just saying, because Eva was saying that it happens even when I'm the first one in the Meet. So that would be the answer to Eva.
Yeah.
Would go and ask your institution about the setup.
Yeah, just
that
make
really
sure that the student settings are right. And then just to add to what Sam was saying about the quick access, I turn it off as well so that they have to ring the doorbell. Not because I'm worried about the wrong people getting in, but actually it helps me acknowledge people when they arrive. If you've got a big class of 30 people, for example, if they're all just coming in, you can easily miss people. It's very hard to do a register because we like to try and do a register within the first 5 minutes. So by having the doorbell on, you can physically acknowledge each person and welcome them as they join the class, which is obviously nice from an engagement perspective as well.
Just on that point, how do you do register in Meet?
So I don't. I have a separate window open with our school MIS, and I just use the list of people and cross-reference.
And is that quite quick to do that?
Yeah, it takes me a couple of minutes.
Right.
And
what do you do?
Lesson. So we don't have a compulsion to take a register for our lessons. We don't know the circumstances of our students, but I just handwrite them on my planner, my paper planner. In fact, I've gone back to paper this year for the first time in about 7 or 8 years. But it helps when you've got too many screens going on around. So yeah, I just jot down the names of the students involved. I believe that the enterprise version of Google has attendance in there now as an automatic, but obviously that's the paid for.
Yeah, the downside of that is it comes through after the Meet's finished.
Right.
So same as the recording would, it comes through afterwards, as do the results of the polls and everything else. So if you're trying to do a live register, that really doesn't help, but it does give you engagement afterwards. So it tells you how long they were in the Meet for.
The other idea that was in my head about the person who was struggling being the first one into the Meet, in your settings of your class, you can reset the code that is at the top of your Google Meet. And I do that automatically at the end of every lesson, just because I've just got this immense fear that students could be getting in there without me. I probably don't need to anymore, if I'm honest. I think everything's been set up safely now. But by resetting the link, the link that was originally there is no longer, and a new one is there. So if I'm using that new one, it should be that I'm the first one in.
Yeah, and it kills the old one as well.
That's fantastic. I think probably the last question of the evening, because we could obviously look at Jamboard, but that's a whole new session, I think. About muting, is it? So the question is, how can I mute all students or particular students during a meeting for the remainder of the class, I can click mute, but they soon talk again. Have Google added that yet, or are we still waiting for it?
No, there's an extension called Mute All, which you can use to mute everybody. But unfortunately, we can mute them, but they can unmute. Again, that was something that we fed back in the product team meeting yesterday, to say that it would be nice, just as we can turn the chat off, to be able to do the same with voice as well. But currently not possible to keep them quiet, shall we say.
Fair enough. I mean, I know we mentioned about Jamboards, but there's talking of things that aren't there yet. There isn't a folder option, is there, with Jamboard? That was the question.
No.
So any tips on organising Jamboards?
I mean, you can put them in a folder.
Yeah.
Can you?
I mean, when you go to actual Jamboard, jamboard.google.com, I'm just looking at mine right now, and it's just full of all the random ones I've made, but I don't use it a lot. I find it a little bit clunky still. It's not as intuitive as some other platforms.
But they're adding new features to it, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's got a lot more that it can go.
So any Jamboard, you can do two things with it. You can either add a shortcut to your drive, and then you can put that shortcut in any folder you like, or you can also add it to a workspace in Priority Drive and just create workspaces for your different year groups and put your jams in those individual year groups or individual classes.
Okay. Marion's saying that she moves her Jamboards into the lesson folder on my drive. Is that what you're saying, Derek?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Right, I think the time has come to wrap up, to do a class photo. I know Helen's very happy about doing the class photo at the end of the session, but thank you again.
Thank you, Maggie, for being the first brave person to show yourself.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Sam and Darren. You've been awesome as always, as I knew you would be. It's been absolutely brilliant stuff. Thank you. You really helped so many people. It's lovely. All right. Let's turn on our webcams.
And yeah, thank you ever so much. I mean, we have had such a lot of people, and the engagement as well. You're looking at the number, and people were not leaving. People were staying. It was only when we got to the end of the hour that people had to go, but really absolutely brilliant. And the fact that, Sam, you were saying at the beginning, well, we're doing it, haven't particularly prepared anything. You were superb. I mean, I'm just really echoing what Joe has said, the three of you particularly. And Joe, thank you so much for the way that you monitored the chat. And I think everyone will have felt that, we've covered a few of the areas. And I suppose we will then see, we can find out from people. I hesitate from saying, do you want more? Because it's sort of depending on you lot, the experts, to come here, to come back. But I mean, perhaps people would like to say in the chat if they'd like more, and then we know to be able to plan whether it's with, if you can manage it, Darren and Samantha, or anybody else who's here, because clearly we had people who were, good help. So lovely. I've got full screens of people's faces. So if you could just smile, I'll do the normal 1, 2, 3, and then I'll go to the next. I've got 2 screens left now. So 1, 2, 3, there we go. And then I look just to make sure that everyone was looking fine. That's right. And the next one, you've got to keep smiling because you don't know if you're on this one.
I don't know what screen we're on.
No, still smiling. That's right. I've got Sammy's up there, Murray Leonard. Right, 1, 2, 3. There. That's great. I'm happy. Thank you very much.
There's a couple of people just put a message in the chat about sort of beginner's guide. So I've put a link in there to my Google Classroom 101 book creator ebook, and also to my YouTube. If you want to check those out, there's loads of videos and guides and things on there as well.
Oh, and can I ask as well, because obviously you're a very important person, Darren. We're in the presence of someone who talks to Google and recommends what happens. But also, is there, like with Microsoft, is there some code we can use or something to tell Google how wonderful you are and to make you even have, I don't know, maybe get awards or whatever, and even become even more important than you already are? Does that exist?
Just Twitter, really.
Twitter.
Yeah.
So have you given your Twitter handle so that everybody, we're going to just flood Twitter with saying how wonderful you are? I know that Sam, yours is a protected Twitter, isn't it? But we can, your deputy head's been here.
I can unprotect myself for a little while if you like.
Yes.
I'm Spanish Sam on Twitter.
And your deputy head was here, who will know just how much we thought you were just brilliant.
She's fab. She always tries new things. It's wonderful.
That's great. Oh, we've had Ireland here. I know we've had Canada. So, and how do you say your Twitter handle, Darren?
you're not going to have a go.
Well, it could be Ranga or Ranga. Ranga.
It's Ranga because of the ginger hair.
Oh, I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, it's an Aussie term.
All right, okay. Ranga the trainer.
Yeah.
Ranga the trainer. Okay. And Fatima's going to be the first one to say how wonderful you both are. Fatima's part of the ALL London team, so.
Brilliant.
Darren, if you want to put your YouTube channel in the chat as well, because
I'll put that in.
I'm
doing
constantly
the photos.
retweeting your YouTube clips. It's just fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I use them a lot as well. You answer most of my questions and then I take them into the Google group, and I'm in quite a few other Google Classroom ones, like the American ones. They talk about so much.
Yeah.
So when I write I've got the email list of everybody who applied for this. I can then put all this link.
that's
So
right.
everybody will have that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. Good. Oh, you've done brilliantly. Look at that. 90 minutes.
Spot on.
Thanks for the follows. My phone's blowing up now.
It's lovely. It's lovely.
It's been
So
fun.
it'd be interesting to know sort of topic areas people would want to know about in relation to Google, because obviously we did a lot of stuff around Google Classroom and particularly tonight. But what sort of areas would people, or is it Google Classroom? Is that the main issue that people are having around getting things sorted out for remote teaching? Any other? Okay, guides on get Jamboard. Yeah,
You've done some good work on Jamboard, Joe, haven't you?
I have. If you do a search for Joe Dale Jamboard on Twitter, you'll find my 3 Jamboards that I've made, which has 60 examples of different ideas you can use for Jamboard, which are all MFL related, including grammar activities, games, and other things. Essentially, I just went through on Twitter and did a search for Jamboard, the hashtag, and just came across interesting ideas and then adapted them, including making a Guess Who game from scratch using the Bitmojis of the MFL Twitterati, which took me about 3 hours, but people loved it. Some people thought it was a bit sad, but some people thought it was cool. And I think it was Sylvia Bartlett-Rawlings that tweeted a picture of her students doing a Guess Who with the MFL Twitterati Jamboard. It was just like, yes, it's brilliant.
Mine loved it.
I've done 1 or 2. Yeah.
Mine loved it, but they didn't realise I actually had friends. They were like, really? You know people?
So and one of the new things about Jamboard I particularly like is changing the background now.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So because there was a brilliant video that someone had made who's a teacher, a primary school teacher in Liverpool, about the whole editing PDFs.
Yeah.
He was suggesting that you convert a PDF into a set of images, put them into Jamboard as a background, and then you can then use it as a way of editing a PDF, which I thought was a really cool idea.
You can also, because you can upload an image now, you can also upload a GIF as a background. So you can have a scrolling GIF just so if you're
that's nice.
trying to kind of work out a process. So I've done it with verb conjugation. So here's the infinitive, then the last 2 letters disappear, then the ending comes dropping in, and they just keep seeing it on a loop while they're working.
And would you recommend making that GIF using Screencastify and the export as GIF?
To be honest with you, I used Google Slides with it and Tall Tweets.
Right. Which is the same as what's it called? Creator Studio. Is that right?
Studio, yeah.
Right.
Now you're just geeking out, guys.
What a bunch of lovely gifts we are. And we're proud of it. We're proud of it. I'm really into watching. I'm now, because I'm semi-retired, so I'm watching all these programs I've never watched, like Big Bang Theory. I hadn't watched all of them before. So I'm just watching quite a few of those, and I love watching them and their geeky behavior. And I think, yeah, that's me.
I don't have drop-down envy, though, to be fair, but
I'll put a link to the video in the chat for Glenn.
Is that something we've invented tonight, or do
I think we have.
Definitely. Yeah, it's the new hashtag.
It's the new hashtag.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's lovely to see everybody's fine, because we all must be absolutely exhausted after our teaching, and some people have got teaching tomorrow. I have to admit, Friday I don't teach, so but really, really good. Thank you so much, because both of you, Darren and Sam, you're teaching as well, aren't you, and getting involved in things, and you're doing this. So really, really grateful to you, and thanks to everyone
It's a
for
pleasure.
coming.
Always a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Lovely.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
I think we'll probably close down this now, and I'll be in touch with everybody with recordings and things like that. So
Brilliant. Okay.
Brilliant.
I
Take
love
care.
to see your smiling faces. Bye, Alison.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so
Bye.
much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Fatima. Lovely to see you. Oh, really, thank you so much.
That was good fun. Enjoyed
No
that.
problem.
Wasn't it? I mean, because I don't even do Google Trans, but so many of the things are very similar to Teams that I'm thinking, oh yeah, I must look to make sure that I can do that in Teams, or
Yeah,
you know.
it's all transferable in what, you know, maybe slightly different formats, but the idea is
And
the same.
I mean, I feel that Microsoft is copying, you know, where Google seems to be ahead of Microsoft normally, aren't they? And then we just say to Microsoft, can you do that as well? And then eventually that happens there. So yeah.
I think Google's just still a bit too raw in some areas. Like, I wish it could be a bit more personal.
I'll stop recording. Just realised I'm still.